Test. 1, 2, 3. Test.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I will now call to order the June meeting of the Monroe County Plan Commission. Before we get started, I want to mention that PUO-23-6, the North Park 2 PUD Outline Plan Amendment 1, has been continued by the petitioner, and also there's an update to the agenda under new business. Item number 2, PUO-24-2, the Cutright Boat Storage PUD has also been continued. So both of those cases will not be heard tonight. So. Jackie, to get us started, would you please call the roll?
Yes, and we have some members joining virtually as well as some in person. So I'll go ahead and call the roll. Margaret Clements. Here. Tronan Wright Randolph.
Here, and I just want to indicate, since it looks like we have enough members here, that I will be leaving at 8 o'clock today, and I just wanted to make sure that I wouldn't break quorum.
Scott Ferris,
Here.
Jeff Morris,
Here.
Cheryl Munson,
Here.
Edward Ullman,
Here.
Dee Owens,
Here.
Jerry Pittsford,
Here.
Julie Thomas. I believe Commissioner Thomas will be joining us virtually in a few minutes, but for now, we have 8 members and a quorum.
Thank you, Jackie. The next item on the agenda, would you introduce the evidence for us?
Sure, I'd like to introduce the following items into the evidence: the Monroe County zoning ordinance as adopted and amended, the Monroe County comprehensive plan as adopted and amended, the Monroe County subdivision control ordinance as adopted and amended, the Monroe County Plan Commission rules of procedure as adopted and amended, and the cases that were legally advertised and scheduled for a hearing on tonight's agenda.
Thank you, Jackie. Do we have a motion to approve the introduced evidence?
Motion.
Second. Yeah.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the evidence. A vote in favor is a vote to approve. Tron Enright Randolph,
Yes.
Scott Ferris.
Yes.
Jeff Morris,
Yes.
Cheryl Munson,
Yes.
Edward Ullman,
Yes.
Dee Owens,
Yes.
Jerry Pittsford,
Yes.
Margaret Clements.
Yes.
Motion carries 8-0.
Okay, for the approval of the agenda tonight, we need to note that PUO-24-2 has been continued since that is not currently listed. So could we get a motion noting that item, please?
So moved. Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve tonight's agenda with the following amendment, which is to note the continuance of item number 2 under new business, PUO-24-2, the Cutright Boat Storage PUD. A vote yes is to approve the otherwise posted agenda as advertised. Scott Ferris,
Yes.
Jeff Morris,
Yes.
Cheryl Munson,
Yes.
Edward Ullman,
Yes.
Dee Owens,
Yes.
Jerry Pittsford,
Yes.
Margaret Clements,
Yes.
Tron Enright Randolph.
Yes.
Motion carries 8-0.
Thank you, Jackie. So we have no minutes to approve tonight and no administrative business, so we will jump right into unfinished business. The first case is case PUO-23-7, the Trails at Robertson Farm PUD outline, and I want to note that this will be the final hearing. So Daniel, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. So this petition was first heard back in January, so I will give a brief recap. The purpose of this request is to establish a planned unit development at 4691 South Victor Pike. The petitioner is requesting a planned unit development to be established at this location in order to develop a series of residential structures. Should this petition be approved, the petitioner is willing to propose to subdivide the property into 137 residential lots containing single-family residences, single-family paired homes, and single-family attached dwellings, triplex townhomes, that will each be situated on their own lot with a shared wall. I would like to note that the map has the lot numbers, that the site plan has the lot numbers go up as high as 139, but it is 137 as 2 numbers. I believe lots 8 and 30 were skipped over. And the development includes 2 ingress-egress points along South Victor Pike, one connected to Clear Creek Trail and one connected to Bloomington Rail Trail. Approval of this outline plan amendment will amend the zoning map and allow for a mix of single-family residential types, some not currently permitted by right in the zoning ordinance. The next step, if approved, will be for the petitioner to file for a major subdivision. The petitioner has obtained capacity letters for utilities, including one for sewer. This is the final hearing for the petition, as mentioned. Upon a recommendation by the Plan Commission, this petition will then be heard and decided on by the county commissioners. There were 2 previous petitions for this property. One was a rezone attempt to PUD, 2012-PUO-6, which was withdrawn, as well as rezone REZ 21-1, where the petitioner attempted to have the property rezoned from estate residential 1 to medium density residential in order to then subdivide it into a similar residential layout to this petition. REZ 21-1 was denied by the County Commissioners on September 29th, 2021 by a vote of 3-0. And here are the proposed design standards. There will be 4 areas. In the preliminary hearing, there was proposal for a 5th area, Area E, for a multifamily dwelling, but that has since been removed from the petition request. So the current layouts are as follows. There will be 38 lots marked Area A, which will be effectively duplexes with a minimum lot size of 0.12 acres. 39 lots as Area B, which are single-family residential attached dwellings, essentially triplexes, with each having a minimum lot size of 0.1 acre. 22 lots depicted as Area C, which will be single-family residential detached with a higher density, with a minimum lot size of 0.22 acres, and 38 lots depicted Area D, which is single-family residential detached, but with a lower density, with a minimum lot size of 0.30 acres. And here are the comparisons for the petition site. The one on the left is the initial layout that was shown back in January, and the one on the right is the current one that was submitted in early June. And here is the site plan as well. There will be 3 phases involved in construction of this. And here is an area map showing the areas. Again, Area A will be duplexes, Area B will effectively be triplexes, Area C will be higher density single-family residential detached, and Area D will be lower density single-family residential detached. The petitioner has also provided a map for tree preservation as well. And here's the location map as well as the current zoning map. It is currently zoned RE1. And here is the comprehensive plan map as well as the site conditions map. Findings and staff recommendation. The current zoning of the property is Estate Residential 1, which has a minimum lot size of 1 acre. The comprehensive plan for this area includes the Monroe County Urbanizing Area Phase 1, adopted in 2015 as mixed residential, and the Monroe County Urbanizing Area Phase 2, which was adopted in 2017 as neighborhood development. Neighborhood development N2 did not have a proposed minimum lot size, but was proposing a mix of housing types anywhere from multifamily to single family. The current CDO draft zoning map has proposed this area as community development, or CD, with a minimum lot size of 0.21 acres. The zoning ordinance and the comprehensive plan yet are at odds, yet both are part of the PUD review considerations included in the packet. And here are just some site photos. There is currently a single-family dwelling on the property, as well as several accessory structures, with the rest of the property seeming to be dedicated to hay bales. As for remonstrance, staff has received remonstrance from 308 unique individuals. The staff report does list 309, but it was found after the public packet was published that one individual was accidentally counted twice. 286 pieces of remonstrance were delivered via signed postcards, such as the example shown on the right, and were provided as scanned PDFs and then emailed to staff. Several individuals also delivered multiple items of remonstrance and therefore were not considered unique remonstrators, such as sending an email and signing one of the postcards, simply sending multiple emails, and in one case, sending multiple postcards. As for percentages, these were manually calculated but are accurate as far as I am aware. The percentage of remonstrators who sent in a postcard was 88.64%. The percentage of remonstrators who sent in a formal unique letter was 8.44%, and percentage of people who sent in both a postcard and at least one email is 2.92%. Of the 308 individuals, 51, 16.56%, had an address within 1/4 mile of the petition site. 170 remonstrators, 55%, submitted remonstrance prior to the preliminary hearing on January 6, 2024, and remonstrance from 138 individuals, 45%, was received between the preliminary hearing and the packet being published. Staff has received a piece of remonstrance from Dave and Patty Bush after the packet was published. The remonstrator does not already count towards the overall total unique remonstrators as noted on the previous slides, as staff had already received remonstrance from them. Dave and Patty Bush have explained that they will like to be able to present this document on screen during their public comment period. Also included was REZ 21-1's remonstrance. One piece of remonstrance was submitted, and it was the entirety of the remonstrance from that petition. This remonstrance included material from 125 objectors as of July 8th, 2021, 60 of which lived in a 1/4 mile radius of the petition site. And so staff recommendation, based on the findings, staff recommends forwarding a positive recommendation to the county commissioners due to the alignment of the outline plan with the findings per Chapter 811-6 review considerations, 811-1 purpose, and Chapter 831-3 standards for amendments, and is subject to MS4 coordinator and a highway engineer reports, and includes the following conditions. 1, the petitioner add maximum impervious coverage standards per lot as a percentage maximum under the summary table by area, which is Exhibit 3 in the packet. 2, the petitioner revise the outline plan to confirm whether streets will be platted as public or private. If these streets will be private, the outline plan shall be revised to state the standards that will be followed as it relates or deviates with the manual for construction within and adjacent to Monroe County right-of-way. 3, the petitioner is to implement a buffer yard type D on the south and north sides of the property boundaries to better align with the purpose statement in Chapter 811 regarding buffering. 4, change Karst Conservancy areas to meet the 50-foot protection standards per Chapter 761. 5, the petitioner is to change the site plan and outline plan to state that the open space for the northeast side of the property shall protect the delineated floodplain zone and not propose any structures in this area, including eliminating any proposed boardwalks. And the recommendation heavily weighed on the comprehensive plan designation in this area, mixed residential, and the fact that the current ordinance does not allow a mix of residential uses as recommended under a comprehensive plan in this area by right. Currently, the only way to achieve the level of mixed residential buildings and lot size variation will be under a PUD.
Thank you, Daniel. Do any members of the Plan Commission have questions for Daniel? Yeah, Mr. Enright Randolph.
Sorry, I was just trying to jot notes. On the second slide, when you were kind of breaking down the remonstrance, would you just pull that up again so I could screenshot it and kind of read through it? That's a lot of information to take in, but I think it's very helpful to kind of show. No, I thought you had another slide. So that's the one. No, maybe that's it. Let me. That's the one right there. Thank you. If you just would hold that just for 2 seconds so I could just screenshot it. That's my only question.
That's from 2021.
Any other questions for Daniel from members of the Plan Commission, either in person or online?
None for me.
Sir?
Let Dee go first.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Owens.
No, I just said none for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Pittsford.
Okay, I don't know that I saw it in the packet, but this particular piece of property in relationship to current or future annexation for the city, is it within one of the annexation areas?
Good question. Yes. Yes, I believe it is. Apologies, I am trying to consult my notes. I do not have that information off the top of my head.
It's proposed as Area 1B.
And Area 1B, in terms of the city's actions, that area is not tied up in litigation?
It is tied up in litigation.
Okay. So that area is part of the litigation,
Yes.
okay? But it is an area that the city is intending, if they win their litigation, to annex, correct?
Yes, this is in the Area 1B, and I believe 1A and 1B are in litigation together.
And I may be asking a question for which you do not have an answer, but I feel like it's a question that's worth asking. Is it the city's intention that if they win that litigation to begin annexation in those areas immediately?
That cannot be said.
I didn't know if in their proposal they had a timeline for those areas, is what I'm asking.
That timeline has expired. I'm sorry to be the one to answer that. The timeline,
I would like to hear from staff.
yeah, that was supposed to be January 1st of 2024.
Yeah, I'd like to hear from staff.
Yes.
I do not know.
As the representative to the city council, or sorry, to the city plan commission, I have asked about potential actions the city wants to take if the annex goes forward, and they said that they're leaving it kind of as a blank canvas until the litigation is done. Not trying to answer your question, just giving you some insight from my representation on the city plan commission.
Thank you.
Any further questions for Daniel? Yeah, Mr. Ullman.
Daniel, real quick, just for a point of clarity, and maybe you defined your criteria, but for the remonstrators, your numbers where you said a quarter mile from the petition site, and then later on you have a half mile listed, is that based on the border or the center, the plot center of that tract?
My understanding is that at least the one for this petition is based on the border rather than the center. I believe that's the case for REZ 21-1 as well, which was a half mile, while this one was a quarter mile.
Okay, thank you. Just a kind of a larger lot there, so thank you.
Any further questions? Yeah.
I would like to know more about access to trails from the PUD property.
Yeah, so as you might be able to see in this here, if you can see my mouse, the Clear Creek Trail is right here, and this is the Bloomington Rail Trail. It looks like they are proposing some kind of walkable path or walkway directly to the rail trail.
There we go. That's better.
Yes.
Could you show that with your mouse again? It's
Apologies, but here's a better view showing the connection to the Clear Creek Trail, which is along the southern and eastern side here, as well as a connection to the rail trail along the eastern portion here.
So I see the trails, but I wanted to know about access to and from the trails, from within that property.
There'll be paved connection paths, 2 paved connection paths between the
two.
subdivision, and then one with the rail trail, and then one to the Clear Creek Trail.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Pitzer?
I have one more question, if I might. Do we have a map that depicts where the city's planning jurisdiction ends in relationship to this property?
I should be able to pull that up on Elevate. One moment.
Hey, Jerry, restate that again.
I asked if we could see a map that depicts where the city's zoning jurisdiction ends in relationship to this property.
I think it's that road.
No, it's Country Club.
Oh, it's Country Club?
Yes.
No, it's Gordon Pike.
Subject property.
So Jerry, on the screen, all of the parcels that are in color are county properties, county-zoned properties, and then the properties that do not, that just show an aerial are City of Bloomington jurisdiction. And by the crow flies, it's about 0.62 miles from the nearest city property jurisdiction.
That city. Okay, thank you. I just wanted a large picture concept of the adjacency. Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions? I have a couple, if there aren't any more. One question, Daniel, is in the Southern Monroe Water Capacity Letter, it mentioned that they would not be providing fire hydrants. It said any hydrants would be for flushing the lines only. That seems like a public safety issue. Can you talk about who would be providing the hydrants, and is that normal in a county subdivision?
That's a good question, Jeff. I believe we talked about this during the last request for a rezone at this property. Typically, what happens if a project goes forward with a rezone, it does receive fire department review, and at that point, they would put in a requirement for hydrant spacings and things like that. My understanding is that if a public utility is not willing to put those in, then I think that they privately have to put in the expense to put those in. Based on this density, I would assume that we would definitely need fire hydrants through this subdivision.
Thank you, Jackie. Do you know who maintains those after they're installed?
I do not, and the petitioner may have more information on that. I don't have many examples where this is the case.
Okay, thank you. And then my second question is probably more for County Highway. I see Lisa Ridge online. In one of the documents I read that a traffic study was not required, and I'm not sure, honestly, off the top of my head, if that was the initial request back in 2001 or if this was the current one, but I was curious about that in relation to the fact that there's been other development in that area with Southern Meadows and Rumpke across the highway. Traffic has increased, so I was just curious to know your thoughts on that in relation to this proposed subdivision.
Yeah, I talked to, and Paul, our engineer, is on here, and he had looked at the changes in the plan, said that there were no changes to the roads or anything, so I'm going to assume that the original recommendation for no traffic study was from the original petition. And if Paul wants to comment more on his expertise on the roads and everything, but he felt like nothing had changed, especially with the design.
Okay, thank you. I think we were having a little bit of trouble hearing you, but it sounded like you said that a traffic study was not required.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah, Mr. Ferris.
So my question falls under the guise of affordable housing. And because you have different types of housing going in the area, I assume some are going to be purchases and some are going to be rentals. Has price point been discussed at all on what these properties and the various type of housing is going to cost?
I believe the petitioner will be going over that. I will note, just for clarity's sake, because we, the way that the housing type will look on the ground versus how it will be platted is a little bit different. So technically, these are all going to be stated as single family. It's just a matter of single family attached or single family detached. So single family attached could mean 2 in a row that may look like a duplex from the ground, but there'll be a lot line going through the middle of that duplex, making it so that it's a possibility that the person could purchase that side of the duplex and that lot. And then there's also a recommendation or a request to add in what will look like from the ground a triplex, but there'll be a corresponding 0-foot lot line on 2 sides of the triplex, making each section of that essentially a townhome on an individual lot.
Yeah, I'm just concerned about the price point, what the prices are going to look like under the guise of affordable housing.
I'll also note, just to expand on Lisa's note, on May 14th, 2024, Paul left an additional comment just for clarity on the platform, the permitting software platform that was communicated to the petitioner. It states that a traffic study was conducted by Southern Meadows, and they determined that an all-way stop would be required at the intersection of Rogers Street and that road once 2 out of 3 developments in the area reached full build-out. The developments included Southern Meadows, Blind Squirrels Development, and the Trails at Robertson Farm. Southern Meadows will be making the improvement to South Rogers Street, which is a turning blister, and the county will install the stop signs once the all-way stop control is warranted.
Okay, thank you, Jackie. Any further questions for members of the Plan Commission? Thank you, Daniel. Not seeing any, we will turn now to the petitioner. So if you could come forward and sign in and state your name, you and anyone representing you will have 15 minutes to speak.
All right, good evening. My name is Daniel Butler. I'm with Bynum Fanning Associates. I'm a registered civil engineer in Indiana. With me tonight is Mr. Donnie Atkins. He's representing ownership. On the call as well is Kevin Schmidt, and he's also representing ownership. So if you have any questions, he's going to be giving a presentation, but let me give you a brief overview. Generally speaking, we brought this to you again. We do believe, in our opinion, that this is a great place for a subdivision, a new place for homes to be built. One correction is that we have 3 connections to the trails, not 2. The third is we're planning on having a public all-purpose trail built as a part of the subdivision out on Victor Pike, so it'd safely allow people to connect from the sidewalk that is by the school all the way down to the trail and not have to walk along there. And we're going to provide that along. So that is the 3rd connection, along with what Jackie was describing. We're okay with the conditions stated, that we talked with those with staff and worked with us to make sure that those were in if this would go forward with a positive recommendation. We have worked very hard to try to meet in the middle, tried to hear comments from the last time that this was heard so that we would reduce housing. I think some of the concern that we've been hearing from neighbors is the amount of density as compared to what is out there now. So we reduced it to, as Daniel stated, 137 homes. Some of them, the more dense part will be in the middle. So we tried to, out of respect for the neighbors and the people who'll be using the trail, not make that as dense. So those are bigger lots now on the outer part of our subdivision. My responsibility as well is to make sure, you want me to stop? No?
Go ahead.
Okay. To make sure that stormwater would be decreasing. We plan to meet all values with the critical watershed rates that are needed for Monroe County so that we're not increasing any water, stormwater to any of the adjacent creeks, but actually decreasing with our calculations, providing environmental reports and not touching any of the karst features that are found on site with a full karst study. And then also we didn't have a full traffic study done, but we also did traffic counts, a generation tool to help us know how much this subdivision would generate. And in turn, we wouldn't have any congestion on Victor Pike because there's going to also be put in dedicated left turn lanes so that you wouldn't have to stop if you were driving along Victor Pike and congestion built up in that case. Donnie is going to do the rest of the presentation, if you will. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to see you all again. Jackie or Daniel, if it's possible, can you unmute Kevin? He might jump in at any moment, if that's possible. Good to see you all again. I am Donnie Atkins. A lot has changed since the last time we got to see each other. You might remember it was a very cold night, and it was dark already, and it's the exact opposite right now. So in those 4 months since the last time we were here, a lot has changed, and a lot has stayed the same as well. And that will be my goal right now tonight, is to try to take you through some of those highlights. Daniel Brown did a great job, and appreciate both Daniel Brown and Jackie with all the efforts you put in to date. And thank you as well to the commission for all the homework you did beforehand. It is a large package and a lot to digest, so do want to tell you we appreciate that. If you could go to the next slide, please, Daniel. So just like last time, our goal is to build alignment. We've taken a lot of the feedback we received over the last 4 months and spent a lot of time with Bynum Faneuil, Daniel Butler, and worked real hard to improve this design to meet all the comments and to provide the best solution we can to make our surrounding neighbors happy, address the needs of affordable housing for the community, and provide an incredible neighborhood that will again serve as a benchmark for Bloomington and Monroe County. Just want to on here thank the staff for the positive recommendation. As I mentioned, there's been a lot of work on our part, but also on their part as well, and very glad we could get to that point. As was mentioned, this PUD is essential to allow us to provide the diversity of housing types in the neighborhood. We do not want a neighborhood that is all cookie cutter, that only serves to satisfy one demand. We want a diverse neighborhood that will be able to satisfy all sorts of families, or even non-families, if you will. And that's what this PUD allows us to do. So we're very grateful with that positive recommendation. We've kept the economics bullet just down below to compare between what we are zoned for right now, which is RE1, versus what we're asking for here, and how density does allow us to reduce the price point. If this neighborhood was built with the current zoning, these homes would all be on 1 acre lots, well over $1 million, all custom built, and would not serve to meet the needs of attainable housing for this community. Versus what we're asking for here, which is 137 homes, which reduces the price per lot by at least 3 times, if not more. If you could, Daniel, next one. We've talked a lot about our vision in the previous meetings, and just want to touch on these again, which is what our drivers and our goals are for this neighborhood, which again is a very well-engineered neighborhood. Will that be the layout, the water control plan, how we interface with traffic, and the surrounding neighborhoods as well. We want this to be a benchmark for the community. And we also want it to be family-focused, that builds on what the Robertson family had there for so many years. If you could keep going, Daniel. This is the meat of what I'd just like to touch on tonight. This is, the font is very small. If you could blow up as much as possible, Daniel, I appreciate it. And I apologize for the small font. So want to just walk through some of the current updates and build on what Daniel said, and then also speak on what we did retain. We are now at 137 homes. That is about a 20% reduction from what we proposed before. And the reason why we've tweaked that is, again, based on the feedback we've heard from the community. The biggest change or changes is that on the north and the south side, we have reduced the density to allow a buffer, if you will, or transition area for the neighbor, for the folks that are adjacent to us, for it to be less dense along those sides. And then we concentrated the density in the middle of the neighborhood. So you may remember before we had a multifamily 20-unit complex. On the south side, that's now gone. And we've made, instead, the lots much bigger on the south and the north sides to attain that density of 0.3 acres. So anybody looking in from the outside, what you're going to see along the border is the exact same density as Eagle View and, you know, the neighborhoods that are, you know, mostly adjacent to us on the north side. And then we transition to more density on the inside, again, trying to provide a more attainable housing solution. We also added that the three wide triplex, as Jackie said. And again, that is to provide the density that we're looking for in the center. And that is very akin to what Blind Squirrels has proposed and Baywood up to directly adjacent to us in the north. So again, to do that, we removed the high density multi-unit building that was on the south. And again, we reduced the overall density from 165 units to 137. Also, what's changed is annexation was brought up earlier, and we are in 1B, and that remains to have introduced a significant amount of uncertainty into this parcel in this area of town. And, you know, this is certainly a great opportunity for us to control that destiny with this parcel. And there was some discussion before on open space and us meeting the 25% requirement. And we have confirmed with everybody we think we need to confirm with that we have achieved the 25% open space requirement per the county ordinances. If I'm wrong about that, please jump in, but I'm pretty certain about that. Now, what have we retained? We still have the will serve letter for utilities, which is very unique right now in the county. And we have all the utilities we need to proceed forward with this. We will still feature all the amenities we mentioned before, the dog park, the trail park, terrace park, and everything else we mentioned. We, again, utilized a plethora of local experts, whether it be Bynum Faneuil or hydrology, or the other experts on the environmental and the wetland surveys and the karst surveys. That all remains in this packet. You saw all those studies in the back if you made it that far. We have retained a robust drainage design that has been, you know, buttressed and gone over many times, that we are very confident this will do exactly as what it's designed to do, which is it will reduce the runoff by 80% of this parcel to help solve all of the water runoff issues in this area and downstream. And then we've, you know, overall, our density remains akin to low density, the current low density zoning in Monroe County, which is 3.2 lots per acre. If you take our total overall acreage and you divide it by 137 homes, that's exactly where we end up. So again, looking broadly, we should be, you know, benchmarked right in line with everything that's around us. And again, we touched on it before, County Highway has endorsed and has taken no exception. If you could, Daniel. We've been on this before, so let me keep going for the essence of time. Could you go to the next slide? We've been over this slide before, but just want to reiterate it. This is our summary slide for addressing many of the concerns that were raised before. And so I just want to touch on these again. We talked about the water runoff, and we will meet the requirements and be one of the first neighborhoods in the community to meet the new critical watershed requirements by reducing the outflow by 80%. On the environment and trees, we've done multiple environmental studies, and we will keep as many trees as we possibly can. It serves us no purpose to cut down any trees unless we have to. The increase in traffic concern, as you heard, traffic department thinks all of this can be easily accommodated with our design. Overhead power lines, we are no different than the communities to the north of us, and our design is consistent with exactly what's been done over time. Cars features, we are no different really than any other parcel in this part of the world, and we certainly have some cars features, but all of those have been identified and engineered into our plan of how to address those, and you'll see those reservations in the layout. And then out of place with the density. Again, if you benchmark us against what's to our north, we are right in line with what our neighbors are to the north and with what's been proposed in the CDO. If you could flip to the next slide, Daniel. Next slide, Daniel. So before I get to the final summary, I just want to say a couple things. Certainly there have been a lot of remonstrances, and we understand and appreciate that, and have used many of what we received before to make the changes in the design that you see tonight. The only point I'd like to make, though, is the vast majority, if not all, of the remonstrances have been received before this current plan has been laid out. And so, as I've described, there's been significant changes, especially on the buffer areas to the north and the south, that will change what this neighborhood looks like from the outside drastically. And, just want to make that point, that the current remonstrances that you have don't necessarily reflect that. And in fact, they reflect something that was very different years ago. I also want to address the price point question, sir. Our triplexes are, of course, meant to be the highest dense but most attainable housing, and our price target for those is $250,000. That's our goal. That's our goal. That's very significant. We think that's exactly where we need to be to provide something to this community that's attainable. So with that, we appreciate any feedback you have, and most certainly appreciate all the feedback we've received to this point. And are excited to continue with our collaborative efforts with this board and, of course, the community as well, and the planning and the plant staff. Our goal is, again, to provide something that is going to make this entire community something to be very proud of, and something that you look back and say, you are glad you approved, years from now. If you have any further questions, let me know, or Kevin, jump in if there's any time left.
Thank you, Mr. Atkins. Do any members of the Plan Commission have questions? Yeah, Mr. Enright Randolph.
Thank you. Yeah, so let me just kind of start. All right. So I guess the first one is providing the required open space and meeting that 25%. Are we considering that utility easement as open space?
Jump in? Yeah, yes, we are. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, when I think of open space, I think of open space, not utility easement. But I understand. But thank you.
If I may, though, we believe we're 100% alignment with the county ordinance that defines open space.
Right.
And
Still.
specifically section 811-3.
We're kind of having trouble with the audio, and I think that is your partner, right? I'm very curious what he has to say. I just can't hear him.
Sorry, Mr. Enright, can you hear me?
I can read what you're saying, I guess.
Okay. I was just saying that in the county ordinance, section 811-3 is where it covers the definition of open space. And so I think it may be just a useful thing for you to review, and happy to answer any other questions on it.
Right, but not disputing you're meeting the 25%, just a difference of opinion of what open space should be, maybe. Sorry, just let me kind of go through this. I kind of wanted to ask about the phasing, and you have 3 phases, right? So you're looking at kind of buildings more of the single family dwellings prior to the triplexes and paired house.
Yes, sir.
Well, I think that's a good approach. So,
It's not just that, it's also geographical, just going from west to east.
and then finally, I guess the area D. I think creating a buffer is great. I think that's going to maybe help support your petition. But I'm curious what, still 0.3 acres is quite a bit of land to purchase. And I think a lot of my focus is how can we reduce the cost to sell and build on those? And like, why wasn't, or could you consider, more open space to create a buffer versus, that property for purchase? It's just kind of my thoughts. And I'm just thinking out loud here with you. And then I'm really kind of curious, if you want to respond, please do. But I was going to couple that into what are your price points for like the different areas? You only touched on area B.
Certainly. Thank you for the question. The density and price point are intertwined, and it is a balance we've been trying to, thread a needle, if you will, ever since we took on this endeavor. We were more dense 4 months ago, and we had a lower cost option, which is that 20-unit, condo building, if you will. We received a lot of negative feedback on that. And so, we expunged that. I don't know what the perfect solution is, although we've worked really hard at this. And if anybody has feedback or direction, we're very happy to take it. We are not, just as we mentioned before and now, please provide all that feedback, and we are happy to revisit this design if it makes you more comfortable with it and more proud of it. And if you think it'll solve the community's problems better. I mean, that's what we're trying to do here.
Right. And I think, even if you try to reduce the size of those lots and create an open space buffer, that doesn't necessarily mean that the price point will give any there. And I guess my final comment would be I think that we're moving in a great direction, and there could be a bit of fine tuning. I know that this is the petitioner's last chance to discuss this with us, but I feel like there can be adjustments prior to making a vote. And if my colleagues agree with me, I would really advocate that we provide feedback and then ask them to come back, because we do have that in our toolbox. We can extend this for another meeting because I think we're getting there. I can't fully say I would or wouldn't support this if I was forced to vote today, but I just wanted to provide that as my final comment. Thank you.
We have all the patience in the world to provide the best solution.
Thank you. I see Ms. Owens' hand raised. Let's go to her next.
Thank you very much. Yeah, as I read through the information, I'm glad to hear about the 250,000 being one of the price points. But to me, that's just about the top of what the average couple, even working regular jobs, can afford. In your paperwork, it says your price points would be below 400,000. Now, can you give me some ideas about the others besides just Area B, what you're looking at price point wise?
Certainly, yes. And sorry, I didn't answer that question earlier when it was given to me. We certainly think 250 is where we can land for the triplexes. And we think, for a 3,500 square foot, 2-story home with a walkout basement, on the edges, that would be, over 500,000. And that's based on cost to build. We can show you models of what housing prices to build or cost to build have increased significantly in the last 2 or 3 years.
Okay, thank you for that. And where isn't White Oak Endeavors based in Conroe, Texas?
Yes, that is where it was incorporated. I am since now a resident here in Bloomington, proudly. It's been my goal for 20 years to get back here, and I'm now proudly raising 4 children here. I go to Jackson Creek Middle School and Childs Elementary, and I'm so proud I've been able to take my kids to see the Hoosiers games and be Hoosiers. You guys don't know my history, but I've lived overseas for the last 13 years. And we just happen to have a residence in Conroe, Texas, and had to use that for the incorporation. But
Okay. Thank you. That's all I had. Thank you.
Certainly, good question.
Thank you, Ms. Owens. Do any other members of the Plan Commission have questions? Yeah, Councilmember Munson.
I would like to know more about utilities. You said that these conform with the residential subdivision to the north. And are these above ground for electricity? Talk to us about that, please.
Certainly, absolutely. There are some very high transmission power lines that run through the center of the property, and they continue north. Early on, we investigated with Duke if it was possible to bury those, and it is not possible unless there are tens of millions in dollars involved. So it's not possible. So those will remain where they are, and that's in the design. Those lots have bigger backyards to provide the right of way that's required for those. But all the houses in the neighborhood will have buried power lines. Everything will be underground for the individual houses.
And is the transmission line area that cannot be buried, is that considered part of your open area?
Yes, ma'am.
And how can that be used by the residents, that open area?
As with any power right of way, as I understand it, they are free to use it, but not free to put anything permanent in it. So within that 100 yards, right, or 100 feet? 100 feet, you can't have a shed, you can't build anything that might obstruct the power company from getting in there. If it was at grade, so you could put a flower bed, if you will, that's acceptable, but nothing above grade, that's permanent. Oh, sure, please, Dan. Thanks.
Yeah, go ahead.
Duke Energy standards under their typical easements do allow for small trees, shrubs, things like that. So you can have a full
garden.
You can have a garden, anything like that. They don't want structures, anything that would impede them getting the. But it is an easement, so they have the right to, do stuff in it.
They really
And the other
on water features and ponds.
Yeah, the other thing I guess I would add, maybe just for that specifically, is that the requirements for the easement are very similar to those of open space requirements. So they're very synergistic.
So to follow up on that question, though, this is still private property within the easements owned by the adjacent landowners. So this isn't a place for kids to go play soccer or a public space.
Well, I mean, if someone wanted to, they would be the biggest backyards, but it's not a neighborhood soccer field per se.
Okay, thank you. Any other?
Yeah, and to follow up on that question, because I have alternatively heard of this area underneath the power lines as common area as well as backyard. So I'd like to know which is it?
It is.
Yes, so let me draw a distinction.
Yes.
The backyard, the power lines run
Right.
north and south through the center here.
Right.
The northern part and the southern part are common area.
I see.
The part that's in the center will be private property.
Okay, I have one other question, if I may, and that just has to do with, I think there are 6 sinkholes on the property. Is that correct?
Yes, that is my understanding.
And are we employing a 25-foot setback or 50-foot setback as per the recent change in the ordinance?
Staff is recommending as part of to change the Karst Conservancy area to meet the 50-foot protection requirements under Chapter 761 as detailed in condition of approval number 4.
Thank you.
And we have no issues meeting that.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Enright Randolph.
Yeah. Has there been any discussions of what any a HOA would look like, or any type of covenants in here, like maybe limiting Airbnb options and things like that within a covenants?
Well, we've had lots of internal discussions on an HOA, but nothing specific on Airbnb.
Okay.
Although we're welcome to receive feedback.
Well, I guess we had a discussion at our ORC about this just recently, and I think, we're pretty limited, and what I mentioned is I rather leave it to the HOA and the neighborhood and have those like more covenants restrictions. But what I would hate to see is a lot of these actually be converted into Airbnbs and rented out. So again, I think we're moving in the right direction, but I would love to see some type of commitment like that, and that could maybe help even after this stage of looking at your petition and before it moves forward.
We could certainly put that on the table. No issues with that, sir. I would say, just off the cuff, I don't imagine this neighborhood would be an ideal spot for Airbnbs and within Bloomington and Monroe County. It's kind of a bit away from the stadium, and but also have no problem if that's some feedback you've got to put that in the covenants.
And we do have a full draft covenants.
Kevin, you trying to say something?
I was saying we do have a full draft covenants written, and that is something we could absolutely add in. We do have a number of other things that we've had feedback from the Plan Commission previously, and also neighbor meetings and discussions. Some things have been added into the covenants based on some of that feedback, and also taking examples from other areas that we've been involved. So,
great, thank you.
Okay, any additional questions, Mr. Ullman?
I have a question for planning, and I know that it's kind of out of the norm, but I kind of wanted to be able to meditate on the answer a little bit, if you don't mind me asking. Jackie or Daniel, I noticed when I'm looking at their plan that there's that little peninsula that sticks up to the northeast. It's like some sort of upholstery business or something. But when I'm looking at Elevate, that is still zoned under that private landowner. It's not part of the same parcel. Is that a split and or sale that happened that I'm not aware of and hasn't been updated in Elevate, or is there? What's the status of that?
Yeah, this was something that we brought up during the last request for a rezone, and Daniel Butler and his firm did a full title survey, so they were able to retrace the recorded deed boundary. I believe that Elevate is showing it as incorrect as compared to what the title shows, but Mr. Butler may be able to elaborate a little bit
that's
more.
Correct. That's correct, Jackie.
That's correct.
Okay. So that map is the land that is owned by the I already forget the White Oak Endeavors. Okay.
That's correct. We've done as part of our, well, actually it was the last go around of this, had done a full, and it was incorrect on the GS. She's right what she is describing.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I was just, since that I'm seeing that being part of that 25%, I wanted to make sure I was seeing that correctly. So thank you very much. Thank you, Jackie.
It's a good question. It comes up often.
Any additional questions from members of the Plan Commission? Yeah, go ahead.
Understanding what this area is now, is that in the northeast, is that part of your open area?
Yes, ma'am.
And what does that look like out there now?
Right now, it's a wetland, and it's kind of where the creek overflows. And when it gets, when it rains heavily, it stays moist right there.
And so all the shaded area on that map, diagonally hatched area, is open area, correct?
Yes, ma'am. I think that's correct. Yeah, with the contours in it.
The light. It's the light shaded area.
It's a lighter gray.
Yeah, that's correct.
There's a few different things. We produced this map, and there's a few different things that are going on here. Everything that is the light shaded is counted as the open space, but within the open space, you do have a couple areas that are going to have some, ponds, for the stormwater, and within those areas, you'd also have steep slopes. So there's a steep slope requirement not to touch those, or have minimal amount of disturbance on those, and then also you have your karst features. So you have a few different types of lines, but the actual shading is the
Okay.
open space.
And will this be fenced from the developed property, or will it be just an open area?
We haven't thought that far, but I'd say, again, off the cuff, we would not intend to fence it unless the HOA or the neighborhood wanted to.
It would just be an open area.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional questions from members of the Planning Commission? If not, thank you, Mr. Atkins. We'll invite you back up after public comment for 5 additional minutes. So thank you for coming forward today. So we will now turn to the public comment portion of this petition. So if there are any members of the public here in the room that wish to speak in favor of this petition, would you please come to the podium? Not seeing any. If there are any members of the public online who wish to speak in favor, please come forward. Sir, did you wish to speak in favor? Okay. Any members online who wish to speak in favor? Were you wanting to speak in favor or against? Okay. If there are any members of the public here in the room who wish to speak against this petition, if you could please come to the podium and sign in and state your name. Every person that wishes to speak will have 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Jim Bohr from Clendenning, Johnson & Bohr. I'm here representing Dave and Patty Bush, who are adjoining property owners to the south of this property. I'm here first to point out to you that this petitioner has received 4 continuances of their petition. I want to point that out because your rules of procedure have in their rules a rule that says once you get 3 continuances, the petition should not be voted on. I point that out to you not because we don't want you to vote tonight, because we do want you to vote. We want you to turn this down. But I do want you to make a record in your notes that this petitioner has already had 3 continuances plus a 4th because they didn't abide by your own rules in terms of getting their amendment in on time. And so they really shouldn't be entitled to a vote here this evening. We think that because they've been here so often, we also want to remind you that this is a rezone and they're not entitled to anything. It is a discretionary vote on your part, not a mandatory vote on your part. They're not entitled to anything. It is a discretionary vote for the outline plan approval. So they have to prove to you that it is consistent with the comprehensive plan. It is the most desirable use for the property. It conserves property values, and that it is the most responsible use of the property. It's already zoned RE1. They can use the property if they want to, but they're trying to upgrade the use of the property. So they have the burden of proving that what they're trying to do is a better use of the property. And it's up to you to decide whether in fact you believe that given the code that they are entitled to do that, and that that is not going to put a burden on both the community and the adjoining owners. If you think that that will burden the adjoining owners and the community, you're entitled to turn it down, and you should turn it down. You'll notice that Mr. Atkins in his points said that a good portion of what he thinks he's entitled to is based upon the demand of the community. We're in need of additional zoning because we're in need of additional housing. What he neglected to remind you of is that the city approved the Sudbury Farm, and the Sudbury Farm brought on 4,250 housing units that are going to be built by 2035. And the ROI said that in total, Monroe County is going to need 4,155 units. So the
I'm sorry to
Sudbury Farm alone is going to have enough units to satisfy all the demand in Monroe County and the city of Bloomington.
Sorry to cut
So-
you off, sir, but your 3 minutes are up, but I appreciate you coming up to speak. Thank you.
I'm sorry?
Sorry, your 3 minutes are up.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in the room who wishes to speak against this petition? If you could please come forward and state your name. If there's anybody else who wishes to come up too, please feel free to form a line.
My name is Guy Loftman. I have lived at 4835 South Victor Pike, just south of the Robertson Farm, for 49 years. The White Oaks PUD should be denied because of excessive density, as well as other factors. I will concentrate on one: inadequate open space. The Monroe County Planned Unit Development Ordinance requires 25% of any PUD to be permanent open space, which it defines as parks, playgrounds, landscape green space, and natural areas. Nothing else counts. Just parks, playgrounds, landscape green space, and natural areas. White Oaks includes the 100-foot wide Duke Energy power line easement as a portion of its proposed permanent open space. Without it, they don't come close to the PUD 25% minimum. On that easement, Duke has the right to cut, to control or eliminate by chemical means any trees, overhanging branches, and vegetation. Nor may the owner cause any building, structure, or other obstruction to be constructed and placed upon any portion of the easement strip. White Oaks land that is subject to the Duke easement can't reasonably be considered a park, playground, landscaped green space, or natural area. Land on which Duke has the right to bush hog and poison vegetation isn't a park. Land with no slides or swings or monkey bars is no playground. Land on which trees aren't able to grow and improvements can't be constructed isn't a landscaped green space. Nobody would consider it a natural area. The Duke easement can't be counted toward this PUD's 25% open space. Without it, the proposal does not meet the 25% minimum open space requirement. The PUD ordinance mandates you vote no on PUO 23-7. I ask you to vote no. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Loftman. Is there anyone else here in the room who wishes to speak against this petition? Seeing nobody, we will turn to the members of the public on Teams. I see one hand raised. If anybody else wishes to speak against this petition, please raise your virtual hand and we'll call on you. Let's start with Lane Bowman. If you're able to
Hi,
unmute yourself, you'll have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak here. My name is Lane Bowman. I live at 1375 west of that road. And we just purchased this property 1.5 years ago. So, well, this is kind of new to us. But, you know, I'm kind of sitting here in my home looking at the property just out my back window. And it's a place, this is a place where my children go to school right next door to the property. And I've got 5 boys and we expect all of them to be there. So we're very vested in this area. And I think the thing that for me, I just wanted to express my concerns with was that the property is zoned for 1 acre lots. And I think that's been intentional. If you look at neighboring properties, all the lot sizes are of that size or more. And even the nearest subdivision, Eagle Creek, is, again, these larger lots. That's one of the reasons we moved to this community, to have a little bit of space for ourselves, space for our 5 boys. And we'd like to continue to see that be the case. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now turn to Mara Flynn. You'll have 3 minutes if you can unmute yourself.
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So my name is Mara Flynn. I've been a Clear Creek Trail visitor for my whole life. And I just want to say, I appreciate all the work that has gone into making this plan, but what is not being considered is the value of what is there right now. And when Daniel showed pictures of the property, he said, oh, there are some buildings and the rest is dedicated to hay bales. But those fields and trees are not just empty space. They're really valuable habitat for a huge variety of plant and animal species. One example is I have personally, over the past year and a few months, observed more than 50 different bird species along the trail, many of which live in fields, and there are many insects that rely on that habitat as well. I also want to point out the importance of the wetland, because Indiana has lost 85% of its original wetlands, and wetlands are so critical for plant and animal habitat, but also critical for humans because they filter our drinking water, they prevent flooding. They're just extremely valuable and should be really prioritized as a place to protect. So I'd like this area to be seen as a really valuable resource that's not just an empty space to put something. Thanks.
Thank you. I don't see any other hands raised online, but if there's anybody else that wishes to speak against this petition, please raise your virtual hand. Not seeing anyone, so we will close the public comment portion of this and turn back to the petitioner. So Mr. Atkins or Mr. Butler, if you'd like to come forward, you'll have 5 more minutes to speak toward any of the comments that were made by members of the public.
Thank you, everyone, for your comments. We do certainly appreciate them, and you taking time out of your day to come here this evening. I'll try to address as many as I can within the time. Let's start with the last one. So wetlands. Daniel, I don't know if you want to put up that map again, but if you look at the standoff we have between where housing will be and the wetlands, it is very significant. In addition, our drainage plan will assist the wetlands and prevent them from being overburdened and heavy rain events. We will actually be helping them from being overburdened further. Mr. Loftman talked about excessive density and inadequate open space. On the density, again, we are trying to thread this needle between attainable housing and not being too dense, right? That's what we're trying to work hard on. We think what we proposed here has been a big change and a drastic increase or drastic improvement for the needs of our neighbors. And we hope that's taken into consideration. On inadequate open space, you know, we firmly believe we're meeting the ordinance. If someone thinks that we should entertain changing the design to not incorporate that the right-of-way power line, we would be happy to take that on. But you know, to get the net density the same, you know, we would have to make potentially the places that are less dense more dense to keep the net sum even. So it's a trade-off. It's a trade-off. But happy to entertain that if that's something somebody would like us to consider. Daniel, do you want to say anything else on open space?
Yeah, we do understand that when the ordinance is talking about open space, there's a variety of kind of things that you can do for open space. Some of it is simply preserving trees. Some of it is building parks. Some of it is trails, facilities that would hold stormwater, wetlands, whatever the case may be. And there is a piece of this that will be the ordinance allows in someone's backyards, but we do have another good chunk of our open space not that. So I understand that everyone's focusing on just the piece that's going down through the middle, but we also have other pieces of this that we are preserving and including in that open space. So just wanted to point that out, that it's not all that, there's just one piece of that.
Daniel, if you could go in the backup slides, we have that slide on density benchmarked against the neighboring the adjacent neighborhoods to the north. Do you think you could find that real quick? I just thought I'd show everybody how we are.
Is that the one in your presentation?
Yes, sir. It'd be way in the backup, maybe around slide 20. But while he's looking for it, again, the point of that slide is to show how we are akin to Eagle View and the other neighborhoods in Southern Meadows. There's a lot of yellow on it when you get to it. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. I think we might have gone too far. Can you go back the other way, please, sir? I'm sorry. There it is. That's it right there. So if you can see this, what we've done is, again, we've tried to lay out benchmark density around us. So you see the Highlands are 3.6 lots an acre. Eagle View is 2.02. Clear Creek Estates and Baywood are 2.9. And Southern Meadows is 4.8. And Southlands is 6.7. Again, you may remember the number we mentioned earlier, but it's 3.2. So if you benchmark us again, or I'm sorry, on this one it's 2.8. Well, it's 3.2 right now with the latest 137 lots. If you benchmark us against our neighbors, we think we are right in line with those neighborhoods. And, I'll just, with 30 seconds left, I'll just, make a note. Now that I'm part of this community, and even before I was part of this community, I have a lot of friends here. I have friends in Winslow Farms, in the Strands, in Eagle View, and all of those neighborhoods, have produced incredible families for Bloomington. And those people in those neighborhoods couldn't be happier that they are in those neighborhoods. We want to do just the same here in a location that's adjacent to the trails, right down the street from the elementary school, right near the new library, and will allow the neighbors and the residents to take full utilization of everything there is in Monroe County. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we will turn now to the Plan Commission. Do any members of the Plan Commission have comments that they would like to make? Mr. Ullman?
If I may direct a question to Mr. Schilling about the comments made earlier on the continuation, and this being the fourth continuation, and can you add anything positive or negative towards that commentary? Is that correct?
Yes, the rules state that the petitioner can request 3 continuances, but the Plan Commission has the authority to continue an item on its own motion.
Okay.
Yeah, Ms. Clements?
This also is a question for Mr. Schilling. In our packet is a will serve letter from Vic Kelson with an expiration date on it. If the PUD is approved and the will serve letter is expired, what happens?
I'm not aware of the utility policies in that regard.
But what would be our planning policy? Would an expiration on the PUD be in order to coincide coincide with the expiration of the will serve letter, or because theoretically, an approval of the PUD could continue for 10 years, although the will serve would have already expired. You know, like they may not have broken ground, 10 years or longer, and the will serve letter would have expired. So how do we wrap our brains around that?
My belief is that you make the decision based on the information you have right now, and a will serve letter could be withdrawn by the utility at any time, I would imagine.
It could even now, between now and the time that they break ground, the will serve letter could be withdrawn?
I would imagine so.
I see.
I'll also mention that if this rezone were to be approved, that the next step would be a major subdivision. So this would come back before you as an actual plat, where you would actually see the lots that are broken out. And if at that point they still didn't have a will serve letter, you would have another opportunity to review it to see if they meet the subdivision control ordinance, which for a major subdivision requires access to public sewer.
I see. Thank you.
Yeah, let's go Mr. Pittsford, and then we'll move over to my right.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I have a quick question for Daniel. Is the utility easement part of the meeting the open space requirement on this petition?
That is my understanding, yes.
Is that consistent with past practice with previous PUDs and rezone requests that had open space requirements? Because I think it is.
Yeah, so there's multiple ways that open space can be conveyed. One of the ways that open space is allowed to be conveyed is on private subdivision lots to private owners. We don't typically see it as a transmission line, but we do see open space conveyed to lot owners in the past.
Right, okay. I didn't think that was inconsistent with past practice. I want to make note here that the Plan Commission is the voice of the people to the extent that we represent a shared public vision that's expressed in the Monroe County Comprehensive Plan. And that we are also charged with making sure that petitioners are in conformity with Monroe County zoning ordinance. When we hear public comment, it's for the purpose of allowing those people to identify inconsistencies, inequity, or an unfairness in those two documents. To simply give preference to neighbors because they do not like a particular use or a specific proposed design is unfair to petitioners who have crafted a design consistent with our guiding documents. What's more, it creates an insurmountable impracticality and unpredictability that tremendously limits any would-be developers in the county. So while I think it is absolutely of great importance, and Mr. Loftman's point about the open space and conformity with our zoning ordinance was very appropriate, and that caused me pause. But that idea that if neighbors simply do not cotton to the proposed petition is not relevant to our decision making. We are charged to make decisions based on the best and highest use and conformity to the comprehensive plan and the zoning ordinance. And I thought it'd just be nice to remind myself and maybe others of that tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pittsford. Councilmember Munson, you can go next.
My comments are very similar to Mr. Pittsford because I had questions about using transmission line corridors as open space in this petition. Can you, planning staff, inform us if there are other developments in the county that have used transmission lines as open space?
I can do a little bit of research, Cheryl, and get back to you. I don't know of any off the top of my head.
I am troubled by this. And because open space that is somebody's backyard is not entirely open space for the entire, quote, neighborhood. And the requirements of maintaining open space to serve the utility is also a concern to me. So thank you.
Mr. Ferris or Mr. Enright Randolph, do you have any comments or questions?
I guess this is a pretty big petition. I know that there was a comment about the Sudbury, but we're looking at quite a ways out before that might be developed. So I still think there is immediate need to see some housing and some density to provide more attainable housing. This petitioner has been here multiple times, so we can totally see that they're dedicated to try to provide that. I haven't seen too many other proposals come our way. Also, that might be because they can't get the letter to serve sewer from Bloomington Utility right now. But that could be something we're going to have to grapple with for quite some time. So the fact that they still have one and that they might still kind of allow this petition or this development to hook up, that's kind of an advantage right now, in my opinion. I mean, I would hate to see these carved up into $1 million lots. I mean, we saw that from the Southern Meadows SOMO development, and I thought those paired patio homes was probably a better solution, and that's why I voted in favor for it. I still think, the price points here are quite high. I don't really dive into that conversation, but a lot of my thoughts are around providing housing for our community. When we saw this a while ago, we saw a lot of employers come and speak in favor of this because they were looking for workforce housing as well. Some of them decided to build housing in adjacent counties, and we missed that opportunity. From my standpoint, there's also the annexation and the unknown, but that's not really going to be something that factors into my decision. But we do have the ability to have some predictability of what's going to go on here right now. I really would like to see something that limits the Airbnbs. That is a growing concern for me. I would be inclined to hear this again. I know y'all don't really want to hear it again because we'll have to go through the whole thing, but just for some of those adjustments, I think would be very beneficial. Not sure how it'll go once it leaves the Plan Commission, but I'd like to see that. I'm inclined to favor this, but I'd rather see those changes. And if there is any way of providing more open space, I know you have the option to use the utility, but again, I think we've all spoke our opinion on that and how that kind of really our ideal hope of what open space would be. But I'm a pretty fair person up here, so I'll get behind it. It's just not what I would desire to see in such a dense petition or development. That's what I have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Enright Randolph. Let's go to Ms. Owens and then to Mr. Ferris.
Thank you. Just listening to all the comments of fellow members, I think that, this body is advisory to the commissioners, which is why we go through all these machinations of what's going on so we can give them the best advice. We are not a jobs program for developers. I don't see that as what we need to look at. At the same time, when somebody has gone out of their way to try and meet the letter of the ordinances, I think we have to give that good view. And This one is difficult because we wouldn't need a plan commission if we weren't here to listen to remonstrances and other extenuating factors that are necessary in order to make a good decision. So this one's tough for, I think, all of those reasons. And I think we need to make a decision and send it on to the commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Owens. Mr. Ferris?
I am not one to take and repeat what others say. And I will listen to what everybody has to say, and then I'll make my comments at the end here. Walking in here this evening, I was in favor of this because I believe that due diligence has been done. I believe there's been a lot of discussion over time with all parties concerned. I think that you folks have done a good job in trying to compromise, and I think the planning staff has gone the extra mile to try to take and reach common ground. However, what bothers me now, and I believe that you will address this, is this issue about the common area and the fact that it's underneath utility lines. And the fact that Jackie said she doesn't know, she have to go back to see if in fact we have cases of that in other areas. This is a scary precedent for open space to include power lines, in my opinion. And so if I were to take and provide input, I would say that should not be included as part of open space. And so you need to have a separate and distinct area. And so until that is addressed, I'm kind of leaning toward what Tron was saying here, that maybe you need to go back and take a look at that and come back and tell us how you would resolve that particular issue. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris. And sorry, Mr. Pittsburgh,
Mr. President, if I may, and I hate to ask a second turn, but I believe for the purpose of clarity that the open space requirement was never meant to achieve the purpose of creating open area for play and enjoyment and all of that stuff. A big driving force in the open space requirement was to control impervious surface. It wasn't meant to create public grazing grounds and a common green for everyone's chickens and children. It was meant to secure that the totality of a piece of property didn't get covered in impervious surfaces for the sake of ease and convenience of the developer. So when we have the idea of open space conservancies versus open space utility, those two things are not the same. And what we're looking at is open space conservancy, not open space utility. I'm willing to be corrected on that. I've only been around this for the last 20 so years, so I may have totally misunderstood that, but I think that's pretty consistent.
Thank you, Mr. Pittsford. And I have a couple of comments to make. One is echoing Mr. Ferris's comments on the work that everybody's put into this, and I think it's moving in the right direction in terms of removing the apartments and similar things. But I keep going back to the density of this and the fact that this is a rural area. If you sit on that road at the four-way stop at the entrance to Eagle View and look westbound, you're looking across the valley of the Clear Creek Trail area, and you see nothing but green. You see a few houses here and there, but this is an incredibly rural area. And the comparison to Eagle View is concerning me too, because I've looked at a couple of properties in Eagle View here on GIS while we were sitting here, and quite a few of those properties are 1 acre. The ones adjacent to the trail are 1 acre. The ones at the southern end of, I believe it's Falcon Drive or Eagle View Drive, are 1 acre. And we don't see anything near that size on the fringes of this proposed property. So this would truly be a dense island of houses and people in a very rural area, and that concerns me greatly. Not seeing any other hands raised. We've all had, Mr. Ullman, go ahead.
I just want to raise your attention, Jeff, to what's on Baywood Drive, because there are duplexes in that subdivision as well. And there, I do see the 1 acre lots that you were talking about, because that's what I first saw too, and directly on the south along Eagle View. But as you move further into that subdivision, which I drove through on the way home this evening from work to kind of get a feel for that subdivision, a lot of them are on half acre or less lots. Majority of them are half acre or less, I would say. But
Thank you.
I'll also note, just to answer, partially answer Cheryl's question, and I'm happy to read the code regarding open space conveyance and how it can be designated, if that might be helpful. But I was following that transmission line, and it goes up to just west of Switchyard Park. And then I'm still not done following it, and I'm all the way down on Gore Road near Harrodsburg. So this goes through several properties. It's not uncommon that a transmission line be on a private property lot. Baywood subdivision is a PUD just north of this area, and it looks like they split half of the transmission line into their common area and then half of it just on private property owners. So that's an example that's adjoining this one. And I can go ahead and read the open space conveyance, if that might be helpful in definition. Okay. So under Chapter 811, this is 811-3. I'll start with E, which is designation and conveyance of permanent open space. So E1 states that the definition, permanent open space shall be defined as parks, playgrounds, landscaped green space, and natural areas, not including schools, community centers, or other similar areas in public ownership. And then it goes on to say under number 5, conveyance. Conveyance, permanent open space shall be conveyed in one of the following forms: to a municipal or public corporation, to a not-for-profit corporation or entity established for the purpose of benefiting the owners and tenants of the plan unit development, or, where appropriate and where approved by the Plan Commission and the Board of Commissioners, adjoining property owners or both. All conveyances hereunder shall be structures to ensure that the grantee has the obligation and the right to effect maintenance and improvement of the common open space, and that such duty of maintenance and improvement is enforced by the owners and tenants of the plan unit development, and where applicable by adjoining property owners, or to owners other than those specified in subsections A and B above, and subject to restrictive covenants describing and guaranteeing the open space and its maintenance and improvement running with the land for the benefit of residents of the plan unit development or adjoining property owners, or both, or included in single-family residential lots under the control of lot owners. So I believe they're falling under Part D for the transmission line that's shared amongst those lots and is labeled as common open space.
Thank you.
Thank you,
So they're
Jackie.
in compliance.
No.
They are in compliance, but I also understand the prior petitions, we had a lot of discussions about whether it should be usable open space, as stated by some members on the board, versus just what's stated in the ordinance currently by Plan Commission member, Mr. Bisford.
But there's no percentage that equates to usable.
Correct. There's no reference to how it has to be conveyed, so technically there are PUDs in which all of the open space is on private, single-family residential lots under the control of lot owners.
I would bring up the phrase "under the control of lot owners," because these transmission line corridors are not necessarily under the control of lot owners. They're under the control of the utility in terms of how they are maintained, how they are used, how they are altered or changed.
Ms. Clemens?
I just have, for my own edification, a technical question. So if someone is in the common space underneath the utility line, would there be confusion as to whether or not that individual is trespassing?
I believe that the transmission line would be treated like any other easement on your property. So if you have an easement from the road to your house for, say, gas service, if someone was standing in that gas easement, it's been conveyed only to the gas utility
I
company,
see.
not to the public.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Ms. Owens?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I've got some big lines that, to me, that go through my front yard, and I know whenever REMC wants to come and cut stuff, they talk to me and so forth. It's my ground, but they have the easement across it, and they comply with what it is that I want. So I do have considerable control over what happens, even though they have the easement.
Thank you, Ms. Owens. Any other questions or comments from the Plan Commission? If not, I think everybody's spoken, so I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Borer has asked permission to say something.
Okay.
My firm litigated a case with Duke Energy over transmission lines. And so I feel like I've got some knowledge in this area. The Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission monitors or regulates the larger transmission lines, and they have regulations that deal with those. And they will not allow you to build a structure underneath any of the larger transmission lines. And we had a client that was building a structure underneath a larger transmission line, and Duke Energy sued to have that structure removed. So as far as one of these larger transmission lines, you would not be able to build a structure. And I think that goes to say what Duke believes, and that is that if you can't build a structure there, you probably shouldn't have children playing there. You probably shouldn't be using it as a recreational area either, because if they don't want people building a structure there with a roof on it, they obviously don't think it's a place that ought to be used for recreational purposes either. So as it goes to whether or not it should be used as green space that would be used as a recreational area, I think that is somewhat telling to say Duke would say, don't use it for that purpose. We're trying to keep people away from those areas, not encourage them to use those areas.
Sir. Yeah, Mr. Ullman.
If I may make a statement in kind of disagreement with the statement we just made about, and I can't speak on behalf of Duke because I've never worked for Duke particularly, but having previously done arboriculture work in transformer lines and power lines, it is not a structure in the way is not because of utilization of that land for the sake of a structure. It's because of the fact that that line needs to be upkept and managed, and the clear path of utilizing that line for management needs to be clear. And if there are trees and things in the way, those can be mitigated and moved around. When there is a house, structure, barn, garden shed, anything like that, those are a lot harder to mitigate and move around because they usually involve a lot more conversation and working with the public or the property owner in that case. So that's, I don't think it has to do necessarily with how the power line interacts with the landowner below it, but more so about how the power line is maintained and utilized.
Thank you, Mr. Ullman. I think since everybody's spoken, I would entertain a motion now.
I'm prepared to make a motion,
Okay,
Mr. President.
Thank you.
In case number PEO-237 or -23-7, this is a planned unit outline plan request located at 4691 South Victor Pike, consisting of 42.12 acres plus or minus, and it is currently zoned as State Residential 1. I would move that we forward it to the county commissioners with a positive recommendation due to the alignment of the outline plan with the findings found in Chapter 811-6, Review Considerations, Chapter 811-1, Purpose, and Chapter 831-3, Standards for Amendments. And I'd make my motion also subject to the recommendations of the MS4 coordinator and the highway engineer reports. And I would include the following conditions in my motion: that the petitioner add maximum impervious coverage standards per lot as a percentage maximum under the summary table by area found in Exhibit 3. Petitioner revise the outline plan to confirm whether streets will be platted as public or private. If the streets will be private, the outline plan shall be revised to state the standards that will be followed as it relates to or deviates from the manual for construction within and adjacent to Monroe County right-of-ways. 3, petitioner to implement a buffer yard type D on the south side and north side of the property boundaries to better align with the purpose statement found in Chapter 811 regarding buffering. 4, change karst conservancy areas to meet the 50-foot protection requirement per Chapter 761 and relocate or remove proposed dog park illustrated on the south side between lots numbered 96 and 97 on Exhibit 4. And 5, petitioner changed the site plan and outline plan to state that the open space plan for the northeast side of the property shall protect the delineated floodplain zone and not propose any structures in this area, including eliminating any proposed boardwalks. That is my motion in sum.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to send a favorable recommendation to the county commissioners for PUO-23-7 with the findings and as stated in the packet for the conditions. A vote yes is a vote to send a favorable recommendation with the conditions as stated in the staff report. Scott Ferris,
Yes.
Jeff Morris,
No.
Cheryl Munson,
Yes.
Edward Ullman,
Yes.
Dee Owens,
Yes.
Jerry Pittsford,
Yes.
Margaret Clements,
No.
Tron Enright Randolph.
One brief comment. I think the feedback that was provided today, you can still incorporate as you move forward. You've been to the commissioners before with a similar proposal, and they denied it. I think if you address some of the Airbnb and some of the open space, that could maybe help you move forward. And I'm going to vote yes.
Okay, the motion is sent to the commissioners with a favorable recommendation by a vote of 6-2.
Okay, thank you for everyone who's put so much work into this, and thank you to all the members of the public who came out on this warm night to speak on this topic. So thank you all. Yeah, Mr. Ullman.
Can I request a brief, like 5-10 minute recess to use the room and reset?
Sure. Let's take a recess. We'll reconvene at 7:25.
Thank you. I think you guys got a little more info.
Good job. I have to.
I see her online. She may still be in recess mode. Jerry Pittsford?
Here.
Okay, so we still have 7 members in attendance.
I'm hearing my sound, just, I didn't hear anything until I heard Jerry Pittsford. Hi, Jerry.
Okay, thank you, Jackie. So we will move on to new business, REZ-24-2, State Road 45 Convenience Mart Rezone Preliminary Hearing with a waiver of final hearing requested. So Drew, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you. So this is located at 4646 West State Road 45. It's 4.1 acres, and it's split zoned general business and limited business. It's in Van Buren Township, Section 14, and is unplatted. The comprehensive plan has it designated as Monroe County Urbanizing Area Mixed Use, and as I stated, it's split zoned general business and limited business. So the petitioner is seeking to rezone the property from the split zoning designations to solely general business for the entire property. The purpose of the rezone is to establish a gas station / convenience mart, an arcade / entertainment center, and an office all on the same property. The combination of these uses classifies as commercial / industrial adaptive reuse in the terms of the zoning ordinance. The conceptual site plan is in Exhibit 2 in your packet. Should the rezone be approved by the Monroe County Board of Commissioners, the petitioner will file a commercial site plan to be reviewed administratively by staff. If denied, the property will remain split zoned, LB and GB, where the mixed use category of commercial / industrial adaptive reuse is not permitted in the LB zone. I will also note that according to the current draft county development ordinance map, the property is shown as transitioning into the general business zone in its entirety. Through the use determination process, staff determined that the petitioner's proposal would be classified as a convenience store, which includes gasoline sales, park and recreational services for the type of arcade / entertainment center that they were wanting to establish in a pre-existing building on the site, and an office for the existing vacant residence that would be converted. The combination of all 3 of these constitutes as a mixed use category that fits best with commercial / industrial adaptive reuse, given that multiple structures on the property will be reused and remodeled to satisfy or to meet the needs of the petitioner. At the date of this report and today's meeting, the petitioner has not supplied utility, that is sewer or water capacity letters for either of the existing structures or proposed convenience store. I do have the definitions on the screen for those particular uses that were established through the use determination process. Convenience store, park and recreational services, office, and then that mixed use category at the bottom of the screen. Here we have the location map. It's at the corner of West State Road 45 and West Airport Road. As you'll see on the zoning map, it is split zoned limited business and general business. There's a mix of uses surrounding the subject property and zones. Here's the site conditions map. You'll note that sanitary sewer line is identified on the northern side of West Airport Road, and there does appear to be a water pipe that goes through the subject property. Here we have some aerial imagery. The use of the northern portion of the site, which was the sale of mini barns and playground equipment, that did go through an enforcement procedure with the planning office. My last site visit, I no longer saw those structures on the property, but it was worth noting in the staff report that that enforcement action did happen regarding that use on the northern portion of the property. Here are some site photos. There is the existing vacant residence. These are just more photographs of the petition site. That's the existing residence. And then in the background, in the lower right-hand photo, you can see the existing storage structure that will be converted to that park and recreation services use, also known as an arcade or entertainment center per the petitioner. And then here I included a diagram of the draft county development ordinance map that does show the property becoming general business in its entirety. We did receive a few letters of opposition. This letter, or actually, I'm sorry, this is on the screen is not a letter of opposition. This is the letter to the Plan Commission. Apologies for that. This is included in your packet. It's just basically them stating their request to rezone the property. And then the following slides here are letters of opposition. So there was one letter that was included in the packet because we received it before the publication, but we did receive a few more just this afternoon. So I'm going to hand those out, and they're also on the screen. If any members of the public want to read these, they're also on the back table back there. So you'll get 2 sheets, 2 separate letters. So I'll leave these on the screen for a moment.
I just would like to state for the record that Rita Barrow, Van Buren Township trustee, who is sitting here in the room, had intended to speak, but she had to leave, and I sent by email, because she sent to me via message what she was going to say, and I sent it to Jackie. So I just don't know how exactly we procedurally handle that.
I can read it into the record.
Okay, great, thank you.
I can go.
Okay.
This is under remonstrance. Is that where you're at right now?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and read this letter from the Van Buren Township trustee, Rita Barrow. It says, "Dear neighbors, I am writing to bring an urgent matter to your attention that can significantly impact your home value. A land use petition is currently under review by the county, proposing the establishment of a gas station and arcade on the corner of the Highway 45 and Airport Road, directly across from Duncan Road. This land is not presently zoned for such use, but the new landowner is seeking to change that. Beyond traffic concerns along Highway 45, which already sees many accidents, there are several other negative impacts associated with living near a gas station. 1, decrease in property values. Numerous studies have shown that properties located in this proximity to gas stations often suffer significant declines in value, with some declines being as steep as 30 to 50%. This can severely impact the investment you have made in your home and diminish the overall attractiveness and desirability of our area. Number 2, health risks. Gas stations can release harmful pollutants into the air, including benzene, which is a known carcinogen. This can pose significant health risks, especially to children, the elderly, and individuals with pre-existing health conditions living in the area. 3, environmental concerns. Gas stations pose a risk of soil and water contamination due to potential fuel leaks and spills. This can have long-term detrimental effects on our health and the local environment. Below are ways that you can help. Please take action on or before 6/18/2024, reference petition REZ-24-2. Email the county, express your concerns in opposition to the proposal. You can contact county officials reviewing this petition at planningoffice@co.monroe.in.us. Be sure to reference REZ-24-2. Call the county by phone 812-349-2560. Be sure to reference the petition number. Attend the petition hearing. Your presence at the hearing can make a significant difference. The hearing is scheduled for June 18th at 5:30 p.m., 100 West Kirkwood Avenue, the Monroe County Courthouse. Thank you for your attention and support. Sincerely, your neighbor on Duncan Road."
Thank you.
Okay. So I will click to the next screen, which is another remonstrance letter that was received this afternoon. And there's physical copies in the back as well.
Thank you, Drew. Did you have anything else to present, or was that all?
I do have a few more things. Here is a slide of the conceptual site plan. that shows the proposed gas station and convenience store, as well as the proposed arcade and proposed office in the existing structures. And here is the other remonstrance letter that we received. This one is included in the packet. I'll go back to the site conditions map briefly. There may be a karst feature located here in the northern portion of the property that would be required to be buffered per the new requirements and to meet stormwater and planning provisions. But other than that, it's not located in the environmental constraints overlay, and there is no floodplain located on the property. I'll now take any questions. Well, sorry. I'll bring it to planning staff's recommendation first before we go to questions. Based on the findings of fact and subject to the Monroe County Highway Engineer and MS4 Coordinator reports, the Planning Department recommends forwarding this petition with a positive recommendation to the Monroe County Board of Commissioners. I will now take any questions.
Yeah, Ms. Owens?
Thank you. I have just a mostly comment. All those unpermitted, I think it said, mini barns and such have been moved down to the other side of the MVets. So I don't know if that's permitted either. You might take a look at that. I still have a concern about the ingress and egress onto Highway 45. There is, yes, an existing driveway there, but it's never used. There hasn't been any traffic in there for years, and so it hasn't been used. As soon as a potentially busy convenience store and gasoline station goes in there, I'm afraid that's going to be more of an issue. I understand that's a state highway issue, but it's one that we should review pretty closely. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions from members of the Plan Commission? Okay, seeing none, we will turn to the petitioner. So if the petitioner or petitioner's representative would like to speak, you'll have 15 minutes.
My name is Mike Carmen, representing the petitioner. Rajesh Patel, the owner-operator of Harry Inc., the petitioner. Ms. Patel is here as well. And we should have somebody available on Zoom who may, an engineer if necessary, to answer questions potentially. So just a few comments. One thing to remember, and Drew's already mentioned it, is that the GB zoning and other business zoning is already in place. This is not introducing relatively new zoning into an agro reserve or a suburban residential zone. It's not only there now, but the proposed new zoning map as part of the UCO process is maintaining that recommendation for GB zoning. And you have dealt with that map in your work sessions with regard to the new zoning ordinance and comprehensive development ordinance. So none of that's new, and it's there. So, we can disagree, and I'm really going to respond more to the remonstrance letters. It's always a little disconcerting after 35 years of doing this different times. It's always disconcerting to come to a meeting like this and get confronted with letters like that, particularly from people who know better. And I understand neighbors may not understand the opportunity to get letters in, emails, call staff, and that stuff ends up in a packet. But, an intentional ambush is never appreciated. And that's what the trustee's letter was. I mean, it just, that, and we disagree with it. If you think about it, and I don't have any study I'm going to be able to present to you tonight, but yeah, fueling stations today are not what they were 30 years ago. They're not even what they were 20 years ago. The double hold with alarms and things. When's the last time you've come across a fueling station in the last 20 years that had an underground leak? It doesn't happen. And that's now we still have a few old stations out there with old rusting metal containers underground, and can't do anything about that except deal with them as they're discovered. But that's the world of construction of these things now, and the containment issues are top-notch. And the issue of concerns for pollutants and health concerns, where do you find the majority of the fueling stations? In urbanized, heavily populated areas, not out there. Now, and if in fact the pollutant concern and the health risk were as suggested in the one letter, would you not have studies and reports of the urbanized areas where these are much more prevalent and about that very risk? But when have you ever seen a report that said that? When have you ever seen a study that suggested these uses pose the risk that has been suggested in the letter tonight? You haven't, and there's a good reason you haven't, because there's no document, there's no study that documents that and would support that conclusion. The issue of property values, I mean, the zoning is already there in place. And this use will be an upgrade to the property. It'll be modern. It'll be the most recent techniques on the tanks and the fueling system. It's just, there have been several of these in the county that have closed in various places. It actually satisfies a need. Think of yourself. What is your shopping habit stopping at a fueling station? It's a drive-by stop. You don't go out of your way and go a mile away to a fueling station just for the sake of doing that. You stop on your way home, on your way to someplace else, and you fuel up en route. This captures existing traffic. It may generate some additional traffic, but for the most part, that fueling station use captures existing traffic because most buyers of fuels are impromptu, drive-by, what's the price, and stop and purchase. And so it's traffic that's already there for the most part, and that's going to continue. NDOT has its own standards for the driveway permit that they have to be satisfied. That has to be looked at again, an existing drive, but they will always, upon a change in use, require reconsideration of the driveway permit for the design, the size of it, to make sure that it's appropriate. The highway doesn't look at it. The county highway will not because it's a state road. I've actually tried to talk to them about it, and they decline, leave it to NDOT. But they have their own standards about visibility, sightline distances, no curves, no humps that disturb that sightline. And NDOT will not have a problem approving a driveway permit, but it does have to continue to meet their standards. So I would ask you to support the rezoning petition. It is a good, reasonable use of the property. It does not introduce harmful side effects. Everybody, if there are two things in 35 years learned, there were always two words I will hear at every one of these meetings: traffic and property values. Doesn't mean it's correct, and everybody has their perception on that. I understand that. People have a protective of their property. I don't want to object to that, but there is no basis to support that conclusion that this is going to harm property values. And I would suggest if you talk to Judy Sharp and look what she's done on property assessments, starting about 4 years ago when they nearly doubled the assessed value of these convenient market and fueling stations, and that has an upward press on all land around it. And I don't think nobody's going to come to you tonight with any documentation to demonstrate a loss of property values as a result of this use being put on this site, because historically, it has not ever happened. It has not ever been shown to be a consequence of this type of use. What has to support the zoning. It's appropriate. It is compatible with the comprehensive land use plan. It's a convenient, very minor commercial node at a traffic signal controlled intersection, which is important too. Thank you. Rajesh, you have anything on that?
Good evening. All right, so I think, thank you, Drew. He covered all the aspect what we was going to say. And also Mike Carmine, he covered most of the part. Existing old army surplus building going to be used as per market requirements, needs maybe 2 different kind of food over there, we are thinking. And remaining it's about 3,100 square feet approximately. So we're going to use for 2 different kind of food. And if there is some place left over, going to use for arcade machine for the kids. Also for other part of the land, the new built building for gas station, and there is a possibility to have some kind of franchise food also over there. There was a comment, thank you neighbors for the making some comments that gives us little, those feedbacks gives us little more awareness also about traffic and those things. So traffic count is considered by the INDOT. So they give us permission according to how, it's not according to our requirements. They look at the traffic and those things. And one good thing that when traffic goes up, that means property value around those areas definitely move up. About the pollution question, IDEM is kind of little more active nowadays what was before. Used to be there was only steel tanks in the ground. Now majority, all the new station, they use fiberglass, and it goes for the long time. So Monroe County, by the way, it's growing faster over there also on the 3rd Street on the west side. You know that community, they're building many, many different homes nearby the Ivy Tech and that. It's growing faster than we think. So I think convenience store always get the limited amount of traffic from nearby the residents only. It doesn't bring the traffic from another county to there. So those places as a convenience store, it helps the community to make the small trip from, they don't have to go all the way too far elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Do any members of the Plan Commission have questions for either the petitioner or the petitioner's representative? Yeah, Mr. Pittsford.
Thank you. I have 3 questions. Given that this is, and first one may be for staff, but given that this is a split zone property, part of it being general business, looking at the placement of the convenience store slash fuel station, does it fall into the area of the property owned general business, and would it be allowed under that zoning? So in other words, would petitioner be able to do the proposed gas station convenience store on that property as it's currently zoned?
Looking at the zoning map, which is I have in front of me, it's in the packet, and then having on the screen the conceptual map, it looks like the proposed gas station and convenience store would encroach a bit into the limited business area that's currently there, which would not permit that particular use, but that, I'm sorry. Okay. So, yes, thank you. As I was saying, the gas station, LB and GB both permit a gas station slash convenience store. However, the mixed use classification, the want for having the park and recreation services as well as an office in the existing vacant home, that is what's triggering the need for all of the site to be general business.
Okay, so if he bulldozed the 3,000 square foot former Army Navy surplus store and put in the convenience mart gas station, he's within his rights.
If he was seeking just the convenience store and gas station use on the site, yes.
Okay. Is the store fuel station going to be an owner-operated business?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you currently own any other stores or stations elsewhere in Monroe County or in surrounding counties?
Yes, sir. If you are familiar with the Rogers and Country Club Road, there was a few years nice building over there, Rainbow Building.
Yeah, you came through Board of Zoning Appeals for that one.
Yeah.
You got
I
good
remember
memory.
that one.
You got good memory, yes.
Yeah, thank you.
So Drew, I want to just make sure I understand the answer to Mr. Pittsford's question. So convenience store could go there today. What we're really talking about is the office and the arcade
Correct. Convenience store is permitted in the GB zone and the LB zone. So if they just want to do that by itself, that would be permitted outright, as long as they go through the commercial site plan process. It's the combination of uses that creates the mixed use classification and the commercial industrial adaptive reuse that requires all of the site be general business.
Thank you. I think that's important for members of the public to understand that the convenience store is permitted today. So thank you, Drew. Any other questions for staff? Or, I'm sorry, for the petitioner. Yeah, Councilmember Munson.
I would like to know what building is across Highway 45 from the office and arcade structures. There's a large building across the highway, and it doesn't show on this particular air photo very well, but there's
Is that
another
you
one.
talking about the used to be old church?
Yes, I believe that's the building.
I don't know what it is.
It is a cultural center.
It's a cultural center?
Mhm.
Okay.
Any other questions for the petitioner? Okay, seeing none. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, so we will move now into the public comment portion of this petition. So if there's anybody here in the room that wishes to speak in favor of this petition, would you please come to the podium, sign in, and state your name? Not seeing anyone. If there's anyone online who wishes to speak in favor of this petition, if you could please raise your virtual hand. So Lisa Funkhauser, you can go first if you can unmute yourself. Lisa Funkhauser, do you wish to speak in favor of this petition? I think your hand may have been raised for a little while. Okay, she's leaving the room. So if there's anybody else online who wishes to speak in favor, please raise your virtual hand. Seeing none, we'll come back into the room. If there's anybody here in the room who wishes to speak against this petition, if you could please come to the podium, state your name, and sign in. You'll have 3 minutes. Okay, seeing nobody, if there's anybody online who wishes to speak against this petition, please raise your virtual hand.
I see that Lisa Funkhauser came into the meeting and is leaving, so I think there's technical difficulties.
Okay. Looks like Lisa is still online. Lisa, do you wish to speak either in favor or against this petition? If so, please unmute yourself and go
Yes.
speak. Okay.
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I apologize. I did not know the hearing was tonight, or I would have been there in person. Again, this is Lisa Funkhauser, and I'm at my grandson's baseball playoff game, so I apologize for that. The Patels are amazing people, and I think this is not a new thing for this area. When my father purchased this property years and years ago, there was actually already a convenience store on the property. It was Jim Glaze's grocery store, so many of you will remember that. They have been excellent to work with. You can see their history in Monroe County from their other convenience stores, and I think they would be a great addition to the community there.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. We'll go around one more time. If there's anybody in the room or online who wishes to speak in favor or against, please come to the podium or raise your virtual hand. Okay, seeing none, we will come back to the Plan Commission for discussion. Do any members of the Plan Commission have comments?
Public, okay.
I do.
Yeah, go ahead, Ms. Owens.
Thank you. I would just like to say that from the store that's on the corner of Curry Pike and 45 to, say, Harmony Road is about 4 miles. And so that would make 3 convenience store gas stations in 4 miles. I don't think it's exactly a convenience store desert there, if you will, but just a note on that. And then I would also say that pulling out of Enright Road coming from the Cars Farm Park, there's a bit of a curve to the left. I see that they have the driveway coming straight across there, which makes a lot of sense. But you can also see on the picture here that that curve sometimes makes it difficult to see. And so I think that's something for the county to consider. Lastly, the entrances to this store are not at the traffic light. And so traffic does speed through there, and really, really need to consider the safety involved there that even a traffic light sometimes can't afford.
Thank you, Ms. Owens. Any other comments from members of the Plan Commission? I think one thing that comes to mind for me, I do worry about traffic in this area, but I think the other thing that is on my mind is this could potentially be an asset to the area with Cars Farm Park being in the vicinity. I know during soccer tournaments and soccer practice, there's a lot of traffic in that area that leaves between games. And I think if there was a convenience store or arcade there, I think that would potentially help cut down on some of the traffic on State Road 45 going into town. So I do have that on my mind. But any other, looks like we here. Okay, this public. Rita Barrow, I think public comment is closed, but I'm going to go ahead and open it back up. If you'd like 3 minutes to speak, please unmute yourself. Need a drop-off line, Jackie. I don't see her on anymore.
That's the same as the letter that Jackie read, though.
Okay. Okay. Let's bring it back to the Plan Commission then. If there are no additional comments or questions, I would entertain a motion.
In case number REZ-24-2, this is a request for a change in the zoning map by amendment from a split zoning of general business and limited business, which it currently is, for the property to become solely general business. This is located at 4646 West State Road 45, consisting of 4.1 plus or minus acres in Van Buren Township. I would move that we forward the petition with a positive recommendation to the Monroe County Board of Commissioners based on the findings of fact and subject to the highway engineer and MS4 coordinator reports. That is my motion in sum.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to send a favorable recommendation to the county commissioners for REZ-24-2 with the highway engineer and MS4 coordinator reports. This is including a waiver of final hearing. A vote yes is a vote to send a favorable recommendation to the commissioners. Jeff Morris?
Yes.
Cheryl Munson?
Yes.
Edward Ullman?
Yes.
Dee Owens?
Yes.
Jerry Pittsford?
Yes.
Margaret Clements?
Yes.
Scott Ferris?
Yes.
Okay, motion is carried 7-0.
Okay, thank you, Jackie, and thank you to everybody who came out to speak on this tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for working so well with our department. We appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to case ZOA-24-2. This is an amendment to the Monroe County Zoning Ordinance, Chapter 804, the buildable area change, and Chapter 815, the site plan review 15% change, and an amendment to the Monroe County Subdivision Control Ordinance, Chapter 856, the buildable area change, and this is the preliminary hearing.
That's canceled.
Oh, we continue. Jackie, are you leading this one? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. So this, I will go ahead and take these 3 chapter amendments together. This is in relation to House Bill 1108, which is going into effect July 1st, 2024, in regards to limiting our authority to restrict development on the sole basis of slope between 15% and 25%. So we're amending our ordinances to be in compliance with that state statute that will be going into effect on July 1st. As you mentioned, this will be a preliminary hearing of these text amendments, so we will hear this again in July after House Bill 1108 goes into effect. but we will know that we're not allowed to supersede the state statute, so we will take that into account when we're working with the public. We do want to get these text amendments in and done correctly, so we are working to do that, and we'll accept any feedback you have tonight before this goes forward. So the first text amendment is under Chapter 804, and easy enough. We're requesting to strike 804-2, which was previously granting the administrator or director of planning an administrative waiver to the slope provision. Since this will be for 25% slope, we do not see that it would be fit to have an administrative waiver of the slope provision, and believe it would be best to go before the Board of Zoning Appeals if anyone is proposing slopes on 25, or proposing development on 25% slopes or greater. So we're proposing to strike that language. And then similar to Chapter 856, buildable area, we're going to be amending the buildable area image that is often referenced in a lot of our cases here. So we're amending it, instead of slopes 15% or greater as specified in Chapter 825 Area 2 regulations, to instead say slopes 25% or greater as measured as a 12.5-foot fall over a 50-foot distance. And then we are separating out for the environmental constraints overlay. We're stating areas 1 through 3 in the environmental constraints overlay have additional slope restrictions as specified in Chapter 825. House Bill 1108 allows us to maintain those restrictions around reservoirs, so we are not going to be changing the eco slope restrictions. This is just for the county, the county-wide 15% slope buildable area. So those are the changes in 804. 815 is our site plan chapter, and for clarity, we are asking that for plot plans, site plans, anything that's proposing development, we're asking that the public show the 15% and 25% slope line, and then if it's located in the environmental constraint overlay, they still show that applicable slope line. And then we're also asking that site plans and plot plans comply with Chapter 761, which is the stormwater ordinance that was recently amended and went into effect on June 5th of this year. And that will allow us to add in additional erosion control and best management practices for developments that are occurring between the 15% and 25% slope that's now allowed. And then I believe the only change in 856 is the exact same image was added that's in 804, so we have to amend it in both 856 and 804. Does anyone have any questions for me? Just double check there's no track changes.
Yeah, Mr. Ullman.
Not so much a question, but more of a comment. Thank you so much, Jackie, for all this work, and also all the work the president preceded this work when this bill was first brought to our table. So thank you to the whole planning staff.
Thank you.
Second that.
I second that, yeah. Any other questions or comments for Jackie? Okay, if none, we could turn to the public comment portion. If there's anybody in the room or online who wishes to speak in favor or against this petition, please come to the podium or raise your virtual hand if you're online. Not seeing any, so we could come back to the Plan Commission now for any discussion or a motion if there is no discussion.
I think this has to stand for a second reading, so I don't think we can. Does it by law have to be heard twice? So we can't make a motion on it right now?
Yes, I did not notice this for a preliminary hearing waiver, so it does have to come back.
Okay, so we can't take action on it. That's a first reading.
Thank you, Mr. Pittsford. Okay, if there are no comments, then we will move on to the last petition of the night, which is 1711-SPP-04, the Westbury Resolution to alter a written commitment. Drew? Is Drew still here?
Drew?
He withdrew.
Drew, do you want to take the Westbury one, or I can take it? I don't mind.
It's getting late.
Thank you. Other stuff on my computer I'm working on. Okay. So we're on to Westbury.
Yes.
Thank you. This is 1711 dash. Oh, you're not sharing the screen? Okay. 1 second. No, it's okay. I got it here. All right. This is Westbury Village. The specific site is 3139 North Westbury Village, lot number 6. So Westbury Village is a subdivision that was approved in 2018 with written commitments limiting the uses within the general business district. Since the written commitments were a condition of approval of the major subdivision and were approved by the Plan Commission, the amendment of the written commitments can be approved by the Plan Commission. The petitioner has since built out several lots in Westbury Village with primarily the general contractor use. Lot number 6 specifically in the subdivision is nearing completion, and one of the proposed buildings is going to be utilized by Star Ambulance, which is a third-party contractor service that primarily works to transport patients between local nursing homes and IU hospital branches and identified as a taxi cab stand under the zoning ordinance. So we went through a use determination process with the petitioner, and that is the closest definition to what Star Ambulance Services would classify as. So taxi cab stand is defined in the ordinance as an establishment primarily engaged in furnishing passenger transportation by automobiles, not operated on regular schedules. So as part of the written commitment that was signed and approved and recorded for this subdivision, taxi cab stand was one of the uses that was actually prohibited per that written commitment. So they are now seeking to amend that written commitment to allow taxi cab stand for the use of Star Ambulance. The petitioner will be required to re-record the written commitment with the amendments as shown under Exhibit 1, and it would permit the use of taxi cab stand on the property. There has been one amendment prior to this to allow the business executive detailing, which is a use under the classification of automotive/boat repair shop. Here on the screen, we have the written request by the petitioner. And here we have the original written commitment that was recorded. And then on the third page here, you can see here the amendments made, striking out taxi cab stand per the request this evening, and then also the stricken request for automotive boat repair shop for the executive detailing business on the property. And that was completed February 2nd, 2021. All right, so that brings me to staff's recommendation. Staff recommends approval of the amendment to the written commitment to add taxi cab stand to the Westbury Village subdivision. I'll now take any questions.
Yeah, Mr. Pittsford.
This is interesting. It shows a yawning gap in our zoning designations because ambulatory and medical transport services have become quite common within the last 10 years, maybe even going back farther, but having seen a need for that with my father, we were fortunate that we didn't have to rely on those services, but we could well have been. And I see those services frequently. I think you notice things more in those instances. But regardless of what we do here tonight, I think it would be good to consider adding, I don't know if ambulatory or medical transport services are the proper terminology, but something minimally medical transport service being added as a use, so we don't have to use taxi cab stand as a stand-in for this actual use.
Thank you, Mr. Pittsford. Any other questions for Drew? Okay, thank you, Drew. Do we have a petitioner here tonight who wishes to speak? If so, please sign in and state your name, and you'll have 15 minutes, sir.
Yeah, my name's Steve Rumpel. I'm the developer of the Westbury subdivision and also the owner of this particular building. Mr. Dave Peck is the owner of Star Ambulance. He was supposed to be here virtually tonight. Did we make that connection? Is Dave here? 'Cause Dave might, he just wanted to see what was going on and answer questions if that's necessary. But basically, I want to clear up some misconceptions about what Star Ambulance is. This is not an emergency ambulance service. They don't go running out to car wrecks and heart attack victims and things like that. They're strictly transport. Mostly what they do is take elderly people from the emergency room at the hospital back to the nursing home. My daughter is a nurse practitioner at Deaconess Hospital in Evansville. And she told me that 3 to 4 times a day, they get a patient from the nursing home in the emergency room because the people at the nursing home found them laying on the floor. And as soon as they see that, they just call an ambulance. Emergency room checks them out. Now they got to get back. Well, the emergency ambulances aren't going to take them back. And she said they have a service like Star Ambulance down there, but they're so busy. She said sometimes these elderly people wait 7 and 8 hours in the emergency room to get transported back to the nursing home from which they came. They also transport patients between different IU hospitals. Someone needs to go from Bloomington to Indianapolis for more specialized service. They take them there. They don't come running out with sirens and lights flashing. Star Ambulances run by Mr. Dave Peck. I believe they're in Greencastle, but all their dispatching, billing, bookkeeping, and everything is done there. Essentially, all they're going to do at this location is park a couple of ambulances. And they will have drivers stationed there to be on the ready at the call, but they have signed, and I hope you can talk to David, he signed some kind of a contract with IU Health to provide this service for IU Health. So that's essentially what this business is about. So in any event, outside of that, you know, I can answer questions to the best of my ability if you have some.
Okay.
It looks
Thank
like
you.
we do have Dave on the line, I think. Looks like
Yeah,
he's-
David Peck, I see your hand raised. If there's anything you'd like to add, you can have the remainder of the 15-minute time if you'd like to unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you for taking the time to hear us. I think Steve did a pretty fine job of summing up. Actually, our headquarters is not in Greencastle. We do have a location in Greencastle, but our actual headquarters is in Crawfordsville. And yeah, the whole reason for us coming to Bloomington was actually at the request of IU Health, who currently provides all the 911 service there in Bloomington, but they're also, because of lack of other providers, providing all the non-emergency ambulance transport as well, which we partner with them in multiple locations all over the state to do that. And so they asked us to kind of come down there as well because, well, per their words, they were just kind of overwhelmed with everything they're trying to cover. So yes, so our purposes there in Monroe County and in Bloomington and the surrounding region there is not of the emergency nature. I mean, we are certified to be able to do that if ever needed, but that's certainly not the reason why we're there. We are there, and actually currently, even though we are not occupying this location, but we're still currently, even as we speak right now, serving IU Bloomington, Monroe Hospital, as well as IU Bedford and Paoli down in that region. But we have hired local people and would like to be able to begin full service down there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peck. Do any members of the Plan Commission have questions for either Mr. Peck or Mr. Rumble? Yes, Mr. Rumble.
I don't necessarily have a question, more of a comment. I just want to thank the petitioner for spending his evening sitting as we went through the prior petitions. So I appreciate you taking your time to make your statement when your petition finally came on the dock.
I've been in this room before.
That's for sure.
Thank
Any
you for
other
your patience.
Questions or comments? If not, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we will turn now to members of the public for the public comment session. If there is anybody here in the room that wishes to speak in favor of this, please come to the podium. If there's anyone online who wishes to speak in favor, please raise your virtual hand. Not seeing anyone. If there's anyone here in the room who wishes to speak against this, please come to the podium. Or anyone online who wishes to speak against this, please come to the podium. Or please raise your virtual hand. Sorry, it's getting late. Okay, not seeing anybody. We will close public comment and bring this back to the Plan Commission for discussion. So if there is any discussion, please go ahead. If there's not, Ms. Owens, go ahead.
Yeah, this just kind of tangential. My dad recently needed to use a service to leave the hospital because they take them to extended care or step down care. And he literally had to stay in the hospital an extra night because they couldn't get transportation. They're so busy. And so I see this as a necessity, even withstanding it being a taxi cab stand.
Thank you, Ms. Owens. Any other comments? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I can't get my
In the matter,
packet to update.
in the matter of 1711-SPP-04, Westbury resolution to alter written commitment that enables the use of a taxi cab stand. Are there any limitations or requests, Drew? These written or subject?
Yeah, I don't believe we had any
no.
subject to or waiver of final hearings.
I
none of
move
that.
approval with the thanks for your service to our community.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the Westbury resolution to alter the written commitment to allow the taxi cab stand use to be a permitted use under the written commitment for 1711-SPP-04. If approved, the petitioner will have to re-record the written commitment as altered. A vote yes is a vote to approve the altered written commitment and add taxi cab stand. Cheryl Munson?
Yes.
Edward Ullman?
Yes.
Dee Owens?
Yes.
Jerry Pittsford?
Yes.
Margaret Clemens?
Yes.
Tron Enright Randolph? Scott Ferris?
Yes.
Jeff Morris?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries 7-0.
Okay, thank you, Jackie. And as others have said, thank you for bringing this service to our community. Moving on to the reports section tonight. Jackie, do you have anything?
I do not.
Okay, Dave, do you have any reports for us tonight? Okay, do we have a motion for an adjournment?
Motion to adjourn. One moment, please, if I might. I want to make it known publicly that according to my count, we've had 12 meetings in 2024, which means we have 12 meetings left. I do not seek to occupy this appointment again. So I want to make known to the public that this appointment will be available. So if you are registered to vote as a Republican and are living in the county planning jurisdiction, this seat will be available for appointment in the end of the year.
It also is open to libertarians and
Yes,
independents
that
as
is
well.
correct. Anyone who's not registered as a Democrat.
That's right.
So, yes, thank you for putting a finer point on that. Don't want to exclude the libertarians and independents.
Thank you, Mr. Pittsford. Have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Jerry,
I need to go, Cheryl. I'm sorry. I have to.
Did you guys not vote on the last one?
Enjoy your vacation.
You couldn't have a vote because it's the first.
It's working.
Oh, because it was.